Please give a warm welcome to the original creator of Football Manager. It's Kevin Toms.
Kevin Toms.
Evening, guys.
Hey, Kevin. Yeah,
Kevin.
I'm good, thanks.
Now, I recognise that face from somewhere.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Actually, I'm doing a pretty good simulation, actually. Just grayed it. You know, it's not bad. Just painted it all grey.
Were you ever a little bit embarrassed about seeing your face like in every computer game store back in the early 80s?
Well, I just thought it was normal. I just thought it was what everybody was going to do, actually, because to me, it's what happens in music, it's what happens in books, and I thought computer games were going to be the same, and I still don't know why it isn't. You know, that the people who create the games aren't shown. I don't understand that.
I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's the sort of thing that I would do in marketing. I'd whack my face all over it. If I could do stuff like this,
I'll tell you what, it shows I had belief in my game because I couldn't hide, could I? I mean, that's one thing about it.
There you go. Did many people stop you in the street when it came out then? Did you get a lot of like unwanted fame, or did you actually want it?
Well, I wasn't thinking about it one way or the other, actually. I was just vouching for the game in a way, you might say. But yeah, I mean, occasionally it happened in odd places, like at a petrol station or, you know, on holiday in Italy and places like that. Somebody would recognize me. So yeah, it did happen.
So, Kevin, can I just go back to the start with the game? Because at the time it was revolutionary. You know, it was the first Football Manager game out there. What made you think of the idea originally?
Well, originally I was playing around with it when I was a teenager as like a board game idea. And then when I started working, I became actually a computer programmer. And eventually then, because at first it was mainframes, you know, big computers. Eventually, the first home computers started to appear. And that's when I could put the two together and put my programming knowledge together with the football game idea, which is one of the reasons why it was so novel at the time, partly because I was a computer programmer anyway. I wasn't learning on the home computers, and because I already had a preformed idea, so I wasn't trying to copy arcade, you know, do a Space Invaders or something like that. I had an idea of a strategy game that I wanted to implement. And then once I got a hold of the computer, a lot of the problems I had with the board game just disappeared, like calculating the league tables or, you know, fixture lists and things like that, which were no good in a board game at all. And it worked perfectly well on a computer. And it became better, of course, on a computer.
Wow. So what sort of level of research and detail did you have to get into to obviously keep it current? Because I think didn't it originally take about a year to create or something like that? So did you have to sort of keep updating it, or were people not that bothered back then?
Well, no, it didn't. I didn't have to worry about updating it because the difference was that right from the beginning, I included customizing, and I still do that today. So that I had in mind that, you know, if the leagues changed or the players changed, that you could edit it and update it. So that was what I was thinking at the time. I wasn't thinking, it wasn't based on a database. It was algorithms rather than a database. So it's a different kind of game.
And you also introduced the graphics. The graphics where it showed the teams actually attempting to score a goal.
Yeah. And you know, like, it seems like nothing now, of course, but then that was a revolution in itself, because the game already worked as a text-based strategy game. And then I think it was about August, September in 1982, that long ago, I was writing the Spectrum graphics. I can still remember doing it. And then when I put the Spectrum out, that was, you know, with the little stickmen graphics. But one of the things about that is I did make it that you couldn't predict what was going. Although people would say, "Oh, when something happened, I knew it was going to be a goal." That wasn't true. The calculations were made on the fly, so that kept it always interesting because you never knew what was going to happen, even though it was quite simple compared to what I do now.
What happened afterwards then, Kevin? So after all these games have been done, and obviously then we've seen these games sort of I don't know whether it was new ones that came out, and there was a lot of similar ones. There was obviously Championship Manager, and there was Kevin Keegan League Manager, I think, and stuff like this as well. Were they heavily influenced by you? What was the story behind it all?
I guess they were, because the basic game idea was the one that I created. So I could reasonably claim that every other one is a derivative, of the game concept, at least, because it definitely, founded the genre of games and the whole concept as well.
Which is the latest way for anyone to get games is by downloading on a phone. You've now got Football Star Manager, which is a replica of the original 82 game Football Manager. So how different is that to the original game?
It's very close. In fact, the way it was born, you might say, was a few years ago. I posted online, because I'm developed for mobiles as what I do as well. And I said, I could recreate my original game for mobiles. Are you guys interested? And I think at the time I had about 300 people follow me online. And they all went, yeah, do it. And so I started that. And it took more than a year, maybe 18 months to do that. And I put that out. But it was deliberately intended to be like a renewal of my original game, and it continues to be like that. So it's got the same flavor, but of course I've modernized it on the platforms. And that's right. All you got to do is look for Kevin Toms. You can find it very easily. I've actually had people asking me to reintroduce the 15-minute loading time, which you used to get off cassette. And I flatly refuse to do that. It takes obviously a couple of seconds now. And they said, "Oh, please put it in there." It's like so they can relive those days when they used to go and make a cup of coffee while it's loading off cassette.
The loading time for that league table, that was a long loading time as well.
The league table, only the first match of the season. It took a few seconds. After that, it wasn't. But that was the slow speed of the machines. But people love it because people love the new one because it has exactly the same feel. It's straightforward, easy to play, not complicated like other games. And they also feel nostalgia because they can remember, it takes them right back.
Yeah, I was going to say I used to pop it in my Spectrum, and then I used to go downstairs and have my tea, and it still wouldn't be loaded by the time I come back up.
What were you having a sandwich? It wasn't that long, Football Star Manager is on iOS, Android, Kindle Fire, Mac OS, and Windows 10. And
I've got one final question for you, and then before I ask Ted if he's got any. So with your game called Football Manager, and it is the original, you created it, with your design. When the other version came out, which is more popular now, and it was originally called Championship Manager, did they have to call it something different to Football Manager, or was it just nothing to do with that at all?
Well, they probably did at that time. Otherwise, it would have been passing it off as my game. The company that owned the name is where they bought the name to make the new version of Football Manager. So, but at that time, it would have been, if you called a game the same as one, especially one that was established like mine was, there are laws against that.
I think the only thing I was going to ask is, what have you got planned next then? So you've got this game now, you revamped it, you brought it back out. Is there anything else you've got in the pipeline that we should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, there's two things really. I mean, I am writing a book about that time, about how it was created. A lot of people want to know the story of how it came about and also what it was like, because I was right at the beginning of the games industry when there wasn't even a shop that sold a computer game. You had to do everything by mail order. So it was really the early days. So how the game was created and the very early experience. I'm writing a book about that game. But the next project I've got is to do a fresh football management game without it having to be tied to the original. But it will still have the straightforward gameplay that I do, my style, so it's not going to get complicated.
And I suppose I say kids now, but I mean under 21s, they want everything instant. So your new version, which is going to evolve, or it has evolved, even though they're going to get the feel of your original Football Manager, it's going to be more up to date. So they're not going to get the old retro version, which people like myself and Ted in our 30s.
That's its place.
Yeah, but exactly. Now you're just opening your audience up. So I'm sure that 10,000 downloads is going to shoot right up. And yeah, and honestly, mate, I really appreciate you talking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and for all of our questions openly, honestly. Yeah, I just really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Pleasure.
And are you on Twitter or anything like that? People can
yeah.
You?
At Kevin Toms on Twitter and Kevin Toms Games on Facebook, easy to find. You know, I'm busy on both.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin. Best of luck and enjoy living in Netherlands rather than Great Britain.
It's good right now, thanks. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.